Welcome to The Explainer. Today we are diving deep into a really fascinating and honestly pretty dramatic sequence of events. In Islamic tradition, these are known as the major signs of the final hour. We're talking about prophecies of huge, world-altering events that are said to signal the end of time as we know it. All right, let's jump right in with this powerful prophetic statement that really sets the entire stage for us. This one line is basically the foundation for this series of 10 absolutely extraordinary signs that are believed to come just before the Day of Judgment. So, before we can even begin to unpack these signs, we first have to get a handle on what the hour even means, and, just as important, how all these signs are grouped together. So, according to the source texts, Qiyamah is the big one. The day of resurrection, the day of judgment. And the signs that lead up to this final moment, well, they're not all created equal. In fact, they're split into two very, very different categories. Now, this is where it gets really interesting. You see this distinction, the minor signs. You can think of those as things that are kind of normal, in a way. They're described as unfolding over a really long period of time, almost like historical or social trends you might see developing. But the major signs, whoa, they are something else entirely. We're talking about extraordinary, frankly cataclysmic events that will pop up one after another super fast. And here they are, the 10 major signs. The tradition describes them appearing in quick succession, almost like beads falling off a broken string. Once that first one happens, the rest are supposed to follow, signaling that the end is right around the corner. But hold on, before any of these massive signs even begin to unfold, the texts paint a picture of a world that's, well, it's in total chaos, just waiting for a prophesied leader to show up. So the whole narrative kicks off with the world in a really dark place. We're talking conflict, despair, a general state of chaos. This environment of global turmoil is the very stage upon which a figure known as the Mahdi is expected to appear. It kind of sets up this theme of restoring order and justice right before the ultimate test of faith really begins. So, who is the Mahdi? Well, he's described as a kind of messianic figure, a descendant of the Prophet Muhammad who's going to rise up and unite the Muslim world. According to the sources, his whole purpose is to defeat the tyrants of his time and just fill the entire earth with fairness and justice, right after it had been filled with so much oppression. So, after the Mahdi establishes a just rule, the texts say that humanity is about to face its single greatest trial ever, the Dajjal. The word Dajjal itself comes from a root that means to lie or to deceive, which, believe me, fits his job description perfectly. His appearance is considered the most intense, the most difficult test of faith that people will ever have to go through. And get this, the physical descriptions of him in the texts are incredibly specific. He's described as a young man, blind in his right eye, with the Arabic letters for disbeliever right there on his forehead. These details are meant to be a crystal-clear warning so that believers can identify him and, reject him, no matter how powerful he seems. And he's not coming alone. The sources say that he'll be followed by 70,000 Jews from Esfahan, a city in what is now Iran, and they'll basically form the core of his army. His real power is in these grand, mind-bending illusions. He'll make it look like he controls the weather, he'll have what seems to be a paradise and a hellfire with him, and he'll even have devils on his side impersonating dead loved ones. It's a test designed to shake a person's faith right down to its very foundations. So, right at the peak of the Dajjal's deception, when things look about as bad as they can possibly get, another major figure is prophesied to make a return. So, according to the texts, Prophet Jesus or Isa will descend in Damascus. Now, he's not foretold to bring some new religion. His whole purpose is to reaffirm the original message. His mission is pretty clear: find and defeat the Dajjal, correct any false beliefs attributed to him, and then lead the world into this just unprecedented era of global peace. Okay, so after the Dajjal is defeated, the last of the signs start to unravel, and they happen fast. This is the immediate prelude to the end. First up, during the time of Jesus, these formidable tribes of Ya'juj and Ma'juj, or Gog and Magog, will be unleashed from whatever barrier is holding them back. They're described as just swarming over the entire planet, causing unbelievable destruction, until they're finally wiped out by a plague sent from God. And then, a series of 3 massive landslides are foretold, and we're not talking about your average earthquake here. These are described as colossal geological events that will literally swallow whole regions of the planet, one in the east, one in the west, and one in the Arabian Peninsula. After that, A mysterious smoke is said to cover the entire world for 40 days, and it's described as affecting people differently based on their faith. For believers, it's like having a minor cold, but for everyone else, it's a severe torment. And this next one, wow, this is the point of no return. In a complete flip of the natural order of things, the sun will rise from the west. The sources are really clear on this. After this sign appears, the door of repentance is slammed shut. Faith won't be accepted from anyone who didn't believe before that moment. Then an animal, referred to simply as the beast, is prophesied to come out of the earth. This creature will actually speak to people and will physically mark every single person, making a final, visible, undeniable separation between believers and non-believers. And the sequence all wraps up with the 10th and final sign, a massive fire that starts in Yemen. But this fire won't destroy people. Instead, its purpose is to drive all of humanity toward one single location, to gather them for the final judgment to begin. So, after all that, what's the big takeaway here? Well, the sources don't just lay out a terrifying sequence of events. They also offer a really profound warning, and, importantly, a means of protection. You know, believers are explicitly told to seek protection, especially from that great trial of the Dajjal. The texts recommend memorizing and reciting the first 10 verses of a chapter from the Quran called Al-Kahf, which means the cave. And that really leaves us with a final thought to chew on. In the face of these monumental, foretold trials, these texts aren't just about predicting the end, they're about framing the ultimate test of a person's